folks, it's Ardwulf. Welcome to second and last video on PanzerGrenadier from Avalanche Press, at least for now. So, as you know, if you saw the last video, which was intended to be the first video in a playthrough series, I set a scenario up from the Airborne set, which is this set, and I played part of the way through it, filmed, and about an hour into it, I hadn't gotten to the second turn yet, and I realized I just wasn't having any fun. I wasn't enjoying myself. So my intention to do a series on PanzerGrenadier is not going to happen at this time. So what I think I have landed on in the context of this decision I said I was going to try to make based on the series is that PanzerGrenadier and my 6 PanzerGrenadier items are going to go on the trading block. So let me talk a little bit about what I think I had the most issue with. Part of it is this board. This is, in many respects, an atypical PanzerGrenadier board, in that there's actually some different terrain. We've got some hedgerows here, and we've got some woods, and we've got the swamp, and a canal, and a couple little town hexes. But that it's atypical is the problem, because this is a more typical, find the right one here, this is a more typical PanzerGrenadier board. I see this as a problem. Now bear in mind that the products I have for PanzerGrenadier tend to be the early products. So this is in no way a statement about what the maps look like or what they don't look like in the more recent products, of which there's a lot. There's people playing this game. It's a fairly popular game. If you're interested in this, you can go to pg-hq.com, I think. And it's a huge and really awesome PanzerGrenadier site. That supports play of PanzerGrenadier and tracks games online and all that. The terrain in play here is simply boring. Here we have another one of the more interesting ones where there's kind of a big town. There's really nothing around the town. There's a couple of hills. That's it. It's all just open terrain. Here's another one where there's like this neatly arrayed cropland over here, a couple little towns, a little tiny 3-hex hill, and little tiny woods. This is just not interesting. And here's like the most. I stopped my search through the map boards that I had when I hit this boring ass map. It's a blank map with a road through it, with one little hillock here. It's simply not interesting to play out a scenario with 60 or 80 counters on a map like this. This terrain is simply not interesting. Now, another thing that I think stopped me, and bear in mind, I was trying to play with the new 4th edition rules, which are longer than these. But this is the 2nd edition PanzerGrenadier rule book that came with all the products that I have, actually, and it's 20 pages long, right? Not rich in illustrations, but perfectly serviceable as a rule book, reasonably clear in its explanations of how things work. I think there's a little counter guide in the back. 20-page rule book, say 18 pages of actual rules, and I'm not sure there's 18 pages of actual game in them. You have a couple of different kinds of firing. You have a couple of different kinds of units that all basically work the same, aside from some units are direct fire and some units are bombardment fire. You have a wide array of different kinds of vehicles that all basically work the same. I think there's just not enough here to hold my interest. And I regret that because I've got a bunch of stuff for this. In the last year or so, I've also played through a couple of ASL things. And this is starter kit stuff, bear in mind, not the full ASL game. And also, I've played some Combat Commander from GMT, which is a game that a lot of people like, and I am not that crazy about. Nevertheless, I think Combat Commander is more to hold my interest than PanzerGrenadier does at this point. Maybe it's me, maybe it's the fact that the stuff I have are the very earliest, like the first 6 products that they produced are the 6 products that I have. And maybe the scenario design and the map design have come a long way since then. The counters certainly look really nice. I certainly appreciate that the old products had these mounted boards. The newer ones don't. They're on cardstock, I believe. I just don't think PanzerGrenadier is for me. I don't see value in keeping this around when I have ASL and easy access to, say, Combat Commander, which is, you know, on a somewhat smaller scale. It's basically the same scale as ASL. It lacks the depth of ASL and a lot of the tactical decision-making of ASL. But nevertheless, I think it's a little more interesting game than this. I was bored by this. I was bored by by just looking the rules up. I think you shouldn't take this as a review of PanzerGrenadier as a terrible game. There are fans of this game. The Avalanche Press just put out a new PanzerGrenadier product called Liberation 1944, which is all like Normandy stuff. Looks interesting. I'd be curious to see it. I would even play it, but I think at this point that I do not need this game on my shelf. So if anyone's interested in procuring a fairly large lot of PanzerGrenadier stuff from the early days of PanzerGrenadier, please drop me a message in the notes below, and we'll get in touch. Aside from that, my negative past experience with PanzerGrenadier seems to have borne itself out in this case, and I think I've made the decision that the game is not for me and that it is going on the trading block.